Welcome everybody to the October edition of the GPS Training Podcast. It's our 40th episode. So today, myself, John, and I've got Andy with me.
Hello.
Very good. As always, we're streaming it live on Facebook. So if you want to see what we look like, please go to our Facebook page. Just search for GPS Training on Facebook and don't forget to like our page when you're there. So without further ado, let's get on with today's podcast. It's our 14th podcast. In today's podcast, we're going to look and discuss the following. We have an interview with Tom from Garmin Sales as we get our hands on the brand new Garmin GPSMAP66s. We discuss Topo Pro mapping, to route or not to route. We look at other interesting activities people are using their GPS units for. As always, we've got Andy's top tips, both Garmin and SatMap. And then finally, we announce the winner of last month's podcast. So, first thing is the Garmin GPSMAP66s at last. So, last week, Tom from Garmin came and spent 24 hours with us and he brought along the new Garmin GPSMAP66s. So here's our chat with Tom. The next thing on the GPS Training Podcast this month is we've got a special guest, Tom again from Garmin Sales.
Hello.
So Tom kindly has brought along the new GPSMAP66s. If people are watching us live on Facebook, you'll see that Andy is holding it up to the camera. The brand new GPS unit that is being launched from Garmin on the 15th of October.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, there you are. So we're not going to review the unit because we reviewed it in the last podcast. So we've reviewed the podcast. In the last podcast, Andy went over the key new features that he's found in that unit. So I know he's had the unit now, Andy, for 12 hours. You found a couple of, or some more things. So I don't know, you can quickly go over those key things, Andy, and then we'll kind of bring Tom in to discuss.
Yeah, so in the last podcast, we already went through lots of new things that we found. We're mainly comparing it with the old 62 and 64S. Last night when I was using it, it was dark, it was after work. I noticed that they've got backlit buttons on it. So when you're outside, as soon as you touch any of the buttons to do anything, of course the screen backlight comes on and there's a little light shines behind the buttons.
Fantastic.
So I didn't know it was going to have the backlit buttons.
Yeah.
So that was nice. In the menus, I noticed it had something called round trip routing, which is more for the cycling side of things. But if you're a cyclist who do a lot of road cycling, you can get it to automatically pick you a series of routes based on distance you put in. So I thought that was quite nice. We see that on the Oregon 700 series, but we'd never seen that on the older push button 64.
Yes.
So that was something new that I noticed. The other thing I quite liked was I had a feeling this was going to be on the unit, but for the track recording, the same as we set up the E-Trex touches in the Oregon 700s, you can have it so you can be very precise with you starting the recording, stopping it, pausing it, rather than it constantly recording like the older unit. So it's something I thought was going to be there, but it was nice to have a play about with it last night.
Brilliant. And I think the key thing for me is it looks like a new unit, Tom.
Yeah.
Thankfully. So actually, I know when we've got the 62, again, Andy, if you, for Facebook, people can hold the 62. 62 was...
64 looks the same
64
as well,
looks exactly the same. It's actually in the same case, I think, was it? Or
yes,
very
exactly
different?
the same casing, yeah.
But the 66 just looks new, Tom, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So slightly bigger screen. I'm sure you've been through this already. Better resolution on the screen. Slightly new button layout as well. On there, the power button's moved as well. So.
And the first thing I noticed as well when I press the buttons is the buttons feel different. That sounds really odd.
Yeah.
But they just feel crisp and fresh.
Yeah, they've got kind of a soft response to them, haven't they? You don't have to push them as heavily to make them to get a response from the unit, so it's easier to use. Yeah. Quicker to use as well.
Fantastic. Some of the other key things that with Tom, again, we'll go over what we've done in the past. That's not a problem. Other key things that you found out, because I know you've just had the unit for in your possession for a week or so, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've obviously got the Inreach Mini compatibility. So it's now the first handheld to have that compatibility.
Inreach Mini, Andy, just quick explanation what the Inreach Mini is for those people that don't know.
Emergency communicator, two-way communicator. So if you're out in the hills and you've got no mobile signal, you can summons help using an SOS button or let friends and family track where you are and send quick set messages or standard messages to friends and family using satellites rather than mobile.
Fantastic.
phone.
So this is, Tom, the first handheld GPS unit that will pair with the Inreach Mini.
Yeah, so it pairs up with the Inreach Mini. You can send your messages from your 66. You can read your messages, you can activate an SOS, so the Inreach Mini can be tucked away in the top of your rucksack.
Fantastic.
So you don't have to have everything attached to the outside of your rucksack as you
Very
go
good.
around.
Other key things, Tom?
So you've gone through the new menu system, so it's kind of more Oregon-like, isn't it now? So you've got the profiles in there. You've got a lot of the track log features that we've got. Geocaching Live has come over from the Oregons now.
Yes.
You can download bird's eye imagery direct using the Wi-Fi onto the device. We've had to go over that already. All directly onto the device. So trying to make it as streamlined as possible to do lots of different things on the device.
Brilliant. Some of the key questions I've had, because since people who listen to the podcast, we've started this VIP club up where people who are interested in the 66s have been joining, and we're going to give these people updates before we give everybody else updates. Within those VIP members, many of them actually already pre-ordered GPS units, which is fantastic. So good on those people doing. There's been a number of questions that I've had kind of come to myself and Andy, so I thought we could opportunity to go through some of those questions.
Yep.
Quick question, which Andy just briefly touches, round routing. So round routing is, could you quickly explain what that is, Andy? And then
again, it's for the cycling. It's got Tom's mentioned it's got these new profiles, the same as the Oregon 700 and the Touch. So there's a profile called To Our Cycling where it's set to route you on the road. So this is for road cycling. Go somewhere you haven't been before, turn the unit on, you haven't pre-planned a route. In the unit, you can use the find button, say find a round route, put in the distance you want to go, and the unit will calculate 2 or 3 routes for you based on the distance you put. Circular routes, obviously, round trip routing, bring you back to the start. You just touch go, press the button to say go, and it'll take you on a round trip. You can actually view information about the route, the elevation profile, before you decide. So it's a nice way, if you go somewhere you've not been before, just to get it to calculate some routes. But that's for road cycling. It's not for the hiking side of things. Okay. It's for the road cycling.
Okay. Other quick question I've had thrown to ourselves as well, that's directed to Tom, is people have already got map cards, whether Topo Pro map cards or whether 1 to 50,000 map cards. Will they just fit straight into a new unit?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll work exactly the same as they did with the old unit. They just go in the SD card slot, which is still behind the batteries.
That's fantastic. And read those. There are 3 mapping options on release dates. So 3 mapping options are, and one's unique to GPS training for the first month. So good on Garmin for doing this. Thank you very much. It is appreciated. 3 mapping options, Tom, are.
So you've got a 1 to 25 Topo Pro GB bundle. So that's all the 1 to 25,000 maps. You've got the Topo Pro 1 to 50,000 GB bundle. And then you've got the brand new Bird's Eye Premium bundle, which is the one that you guys have got exclusively, which gives you 25,000 square kilometres of 1 to 25 mapping that you can choose over the UK, over Great Britain.
So that's equivalent. Well, a normal Bird's Eye voucher, Andy, is 3,000 square kilometres, which you say is about the size of Lake District National Park, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 25,000 is 8 times bigger.
Yeah, you can do all the national parks if you wanted to in Great Britain. Or I think it equates to something like 64 OS maps.
Brilliant.
OS map sheets.
Fantastic. The other key thing, which I know we mentioned and we didn't really know much about, but I think we've learned over the last few hours, is expedition mode. So it's got an expedition mode in the 66s, which we didn't know what it is. I know you had a little bit of, when we met yesterday, you kind of said, I've worked out what this is. What's expedition mode?
So it's kind of like a further advancement of battery saving mode. So when you ask the device to go into expedition mode, the device powers off the screen totally, and it reduces the track log points down to 1 minute.
Okay.
And that means that it can stretch up to a week's worth of battery life.
Right.
In an effective standby mode by just tracking.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to wake the device, you can do. You just press a button, press the power button, it wakes the device up. In the meantime, if you want to make sure the device is still working, there's now on the top a little red LED that flashes just to let you know that it's still live and recording, and still tracking for you.
And what kind of time scale can we set this unit to come into expedition mode? Is it like equivalent of backlight, 15 seconds, 30 seconds? Are we talking a half an hour, 2 hours?
There's 2 options. You can ask it to automatically do it, and it does it after 2 minutes of inactivity on the device. Or you can ask the device to prompt you. So after 2 minutes, it'll say, "Do you want me to go into expedition mode?" And you have to press yes or no. So there's those 2 options currently in there.
So I suppose, Andy, it'd be something that you would use when you were on an expedition. If you were out for a day's walking, you would switch that off, really, because you want that track.
If you want a very precise track and you're just doing a day's walking, you're going to be fine. But I think people going out for days and days where they're worrying about places to charge up batteries. Let's face it, every minute recording a track point, we know it's not as precise as that every few seconds, but to actually use it for things like an emergency track back to get back to the start, you ain't going to have a problem if every minute it's dropping a little marker down, and it's really going to extend that battery life. So I think for people who are using it more for it's that navigation and the safety and finding your way back, why wouldn't you use that? I know some customers do like that very precise track recording where, yes, they may not use it, but no, I think it's a great added bonus having that option to say, I don't want to record every second.
I'm mostly going to regret the next subject now, battery life. I noticed when Tom brought this to us yesterday, he's got a Garmin rechargeable battery pack in the back, which we don't really like, Tom.
Okay.
They're not the greatest, are they? They're all right, but they're not the greatest. But again, when Andy's come back in today, you've had this out in the night time. You've been wandering around with it a few hours indoors. Worst place for a GPS really to work.
Just trying to lock onto satellites all the time. Yeah.
And it's performed.
Yeah, the batteries seem pretty good. So I don't know till we do some thorough testing on it, but I have a feeling, I suppose, as products get newer, they'll have the clever electronics potentially drawing less batteries, all I can assume, because normally if I had the Garmin batteries are 2000 milliamp hours, and actually with any sort of batteries, if you're sitting constantly playing with it in the house, bringing the screen on as you're learning how to use it, you will draw more battery than when you're actually using it out in the field. And it's got a strong satellite signal, and I've still got a pretty large amount of battery consumption. You must have had it on for a fair bit as well.
Yeah, I had it on for a fair few hours the day before.
So it'd be interesting when we go out and test it for that day's walk and see how it actually performs out in the field, which is what people really want to know about. I think it's going to be better from what I've seen so far.
Brilliant. And the other key thing from just listening to your conversations is the way that the track or the data is stored. So it's not just saving it as a GPX file, Andy, it's saving it as GPS and fit file, is it?
The way the new units are working, they have this thing called recorded activity, or your activity, and it's what we call a .fit file. That those of you who use the Garmin cycle units and watches will be familiar with. It's the format we use on the Garmin Connect app. So it's gearing up really for this device, pairing with the Garmin Connect app, and there's a new, dare I say there's a new, can I mention the new app?
Yeah, of course.
There's a new app coming out as well that will be launched as well, that we don't know any more about it really yet.
Explorer Mobile.
Called Explorer Mobile.
Explorer Mobile,
Yeah, and that's going to allow some route planning using mobile devices to send to the unit. So it's this recording the file as a GPX file that we're all familiar with for sharing others and using in Garmin's Basecamp software. It's also got this fit file that you'll be able to take out and use in the mobile apps.
And it also, you described it as storing the data as a raw file, equivalent to a raw file in the camera as well. Can you explain a little bit? I forgot what the terminology was.
Yeah, so this is the first Garmin handheld that has the ability to store the raw GPS data, so they call it RINX data.
Yeah.
And that is basically the raw GPS data that the device has received from each individual satellite. And then what you can do is you're getting slightly more complicated now, but you can post-process that information. So you can go to a piece of computer software, post-process it, and actually reduce the accuracy of the information that you've got
increase the accuracy,
of the information that you've got. Through testing so far, they've actually managed through post-processing to get it down to 30 centimetres accuracy.
So really, as a walker, we would be doing that, but it's more that if somebody was on site and they wanted
professional use, absolutely,
yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah, GPS accuracy monitoring. There's quite a lot of that goes on where people run testing on the GPS systems.
Just future-proofing it, isn't it?
Future-proofing it, yeah. It's another feature that's built into there in the background.
And I know we discussed this last time, but Tom is the first GPS unit, handheld GPS unit from Garmin to use the Galileo.
It is, yes.
So that should improve it. Are we there with the accuracy with Galileo now? Is this going to get better in time?
I think you were playing around with this morning as well, weren't you? Yeah. And there's very little difference between GLONASS and Galileo at the moment with GPS. Let's watch that space for the future. It has that capability.
It got a very strong satellite signal. I mean, last night when I was playing with it, turning it on, it was extremely quick. But it didn't matter if I had it on the Galileo and GPS or the GLONASS and GPS. They were both just as quick. But I think things are going to move forward with the Galileo. Yeah. They've still got a few more satellites to put up there. Yeah. So again, it's just future-proofing it.
And the larger screen, so it's now 3-inch screen rather than 2.6 before. Yep. 200 by 400 pixels, isn't it? So, and again, we're indoors here now, and it looks very, very good. I know you've been outside with it. And
first thing this morning, I had the sunlight shining really brightly on it, and it was spot on for viewing in the sunlight.
Yeah,
as we'd expect from an outdoor device.
Yeah, looks. I keep saying this. It looks the business. It looks fresh. It looks clean. It looks new. And yeah, I like the feel of it in your hand. It does look the business.
We have retained that heritage that Garmin have. We've actually upped the standard that we test the device to now. So it's a MIL 810 rather than IP rating.
Right.
So it has to go through 24 stringent tests.
Yes.
Before we can put that standard on it, we've really upgraded the ruggedness of the device at the same time as making it sleek, modern, adding in all these new features as well.
Well, I know from us, our feedback, I said we're pre-selling. We're not even got on our website. We are going to put it on our website this afternoon or tomorrow.
We've got a load of back
But
orders.
we've got back orders already. People that are wanting to upgrade from 62, 64 and coming to this because it's even our trader Ian in the south of England is on the phone yesterday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I need my 66. I need it. So we reserved one for him. So see what people have seen even before they've physically seen the product. They're really liking what they're doing. So we'll link our mobile phone as well, so we get live weather updates, live geocaching, and is that the way we do the satellite imagery downloads as well?
You can do it either via Bluetooth or via Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So the device can connect directly to your home Wi-Fi network or a Wi-Fi network in a coffee shop or a pub or wherever.
Fantastic.
Wherever you might be.
Brilliant. And then we've got the LED flashlight SOS speaker. I know you said, Andy, it was very, very
bright. I used it last night. I said, hopefully no helicopters were landing on the street last night. I held it up and had the SOS beacon on the back. So, yeah.
Very, very good. Anything else you guys want to add? Is there anything else we need to know?
It's interesting. Someone asked you about map compatibility. Someone did ask me the other day, and we've not mentioned it. The back of the unit has the same spine as you see on the back of all the current Garmin units. So it means any existing accessories that you've got. So we really like this backpack tether. If you're looking on Facebook, you can see the backpack tether. So all the existing accessories that you've got with the current range of Garmin GPSs will work with it as well.
Good. That's a nice thing, because actually it's backward compatible with those accessories and also to map cards. I know that's a lot of questions I've had from people before, because the map cards are relatively expensive, they can keep their own map cards. Anything else, Andy or Tom?
Looking forward to starting using it. Brilliant.
So then, by the time the podcast is out, they'll be on our website. So if you go to gpstraining.co.uk and click on GPS store, you'll see Garmin GPS units, all Garmin GPS units, or Garmin GPS units 1 to 50,000 or 1 to 25,000. You'll see the products listed there. And we're pre-selling this. We're already pre-selling, but it's going to go on our website at the start of October, ready for sales. I've just mentioned earlier on, please feel free to join the VIP club, and as we approach the launch of the 66S, if you want to join our VIP club, just go to gpstraining.co.uk, click on news, and you'll see an article all about the, it says click on this launch of the new GPSMAP66s. If you click on that article, you'll see a link at the top there of how to join the VIP club. And what we're doing with the VIP club, these are the guys who already pre-ordered, so these people have been buying already. So we're giving people who want to trade up from 62, 64, or any Garmin GPS unit, we're honouring the price really to the end of October, once we give that price whenever it is. And we're also, they're getting previews of any videos we're doing. They're going to get live unboxing on the launch date. And as well, we're going to see how good Garmin are at delivering the quantity that we want. So they are literally ordering, and we've literally got a box like one going up right up to. So the first one who orders will get the first GPS unit and dispatch on the day that it comes to ourselves. Brilliant, guys. Thank you very much for joining us for this quick extra bit on the podcast. And we're all looking forward to the 15th of October for the launch of the new GPS unit from Garmin. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thank you.
The next thing on the GPS Training podcast this month is Topo Pro mapping, to route or not to route. I know we've mentioned this in past podcasts, but we still get a number of questions over the telephone in regards to Topo Pro mapping from Garmin. It's a little confusing, I think, because the word Topo, Andy, is confusing people about what exactly it is. So, Andy, what is the Topo mapping or the Topo Pro mapping, and how people are using this mapping?
So, GPS Training, we stock the Garmin range of GPS devices with Ordnance Survey mapping. 1 to 50 scale, which you'll all be familiar with, is your pink Land Ranger maps, or 1 to 25, which is your Explorer maps. We all know that terminology. Ordnance Survey, 1 to 25 Land Ranger. 1 to 50 Land Ranger, even 1 to 50 Land Ranger, and Ordnance Survey Explorer 1 to 25. Mm-hmm. But Garmin like to give us different part names that do confuse customers. So I'll start with the 1 to 51 first. So the current map product from Garmin, the latest Ordnance Survey 1 to 50 map that came out just a few months ago, it's dated 2018, is called Topo Great Britain Pro 1 to 50k.
Okay.
It doesn't say on the front cover of the box Ordnance Survey. Mm-hmm. It does when you turn the packet over. Those of you on Facebook, I'm holding the packet up now. Actually, on the back of the packet, there is some text that says Ordnance Survey. Mm-hmm. Basically, topo is just a loose term that means topographical map that has land-based, man-made features, contour lines, etc. When you're looking on our website, we use the heading units with Ordnance Survey mapping. We're selling them in Great Britain, so Great Britain Ordnance Survey mapping. And when you see the wording Topo Great Britain Pro 1 to 50k, it is the 1 to 50 Land Ranger maps.
Brilliant. We also can get that in 1 to 25k
So
as
we
well.
also have on our website a section that says units with Ordnance Survey 1 to 25 mapping, and again that's called Topo Great Britain Pro 1 to 25. It doesn't say on the front cover Ordnance Survey, but it is a scan of all the Ordnance Survey maps for Great
So
Britain.
really, I think that the thought is we need to just get our heads around that. Topo is just a loose name for mapping. Because again, we've got Topo Light, Topo Active mapping from Garmin as well. But again, we're not going to think it. We always think in the past T was topographical. T was a different type of mapping. But I suppose we think of Topo as a map. That's the way.
I think where the confusion is, so again, going back to our website, where we have the heading with Ordnance Survey maps, they actually say 1-50k, 1-25k.
Okay.
And we have in our own descriptions that it's Ordnance Survey. Garmin also do a product called Topo Active Europe, and that's a mapping that we put on the Etrex Touch units. We can do the Oregon 750 with it, and 750T, and the new GPSMAP66s ST. That Topo Active Europe mapping is mapping that covers all of Europe, and it's more like a lighter sort of a cyclist style map, or a more basic sort of recreational walkers map, not an Ordnance Survey map.
That's brilliant. So Topo Pro mapping, or Topo Great Britain Pro, either 125, 1 to 50k, and that's the Ordnance Survey mapping from Garmin. Now, what's different between the Topo Pro mapping and the Discoverer mapping that it previously had?
So just to confuse you more, Garmin's Ordnance Survey mapping prior to these ones that have PRO Pro in the reference were called Discoverer. They again were Ordnance Survey maps. We still have some of them left on our website. But when you see the wording Pro 1 to 50 or Pro 1 to 25, that means that map card now has what we call routable trail data or routable footpath data in the national parks in Great Britain. So that's all of the 14 national parks. If you were walking in those national parks, you can get the unit to snap onto footpaths, a bit like a car sat nav would snap onto roads in A to B. Only when you're in the national parks. There has been confusion with some customers saying, well, if I'm not in a national park, does it not have Ordnance Survey mapping? It's Ordnance Survey mapping for the whole of Great Britain. Actually covers Isle of Man now with this new Topo Pro. But it just means if you're in a national park, you can get your GPS device to automatically route onto footpaths for walking.
And the majority of units that we're selling now are bundled with this. Most people are buying this new Topo Pro. Well, the new Topo has been with us a few months now. The Topo Pro 1 to 50k or 125k, aren't they? Okay, that's brilliant. So that's hopefully clarified that. So we do currently sell the majority of the units with the older mapping as well. So again, it's £30 cheaper. So if people are wanting a unit without the new Topo Great Britain Pro, we do have some of the older map cards, which are £30 cheaper. But as Andy explains there, that doesn't have this turn-by-turn off-road data or footpath data in the national parks. So if you want to find out more about the GPS units that we're selling, please just go to our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk, click on GPS Store, then choose the category that you want on the left hand side, either 1 to 50,000 or 1 to 25,000. Okay, the next thing in the GPS Train podcast this month is some common activities and less common activities that people are using their GPS units for. This is a conversation that piped up in the office yesterday. We can say what we're going to do in the podcast this month. And Lynn, who you must have spoke to if you do, rings up and said, well, actually, let's talk about some of the, or why don't you talk about some of the more unusual things people are using their GPS units for? Yeah, the majority of units that we sell are being used for walking and cycling. But again, Andy, what are some of the various things that people have used for? So first thing I put is horse riding, isn't it? So you get a number of people who bought them for horse riding. How are they using them on their horse riding?
Yeah, I've had a few customers who have actually been going abroad on holiday. I had a lady who was going to Canada and she was going to be trekking on horseback the full width of Canada. And she wanted, when she was on the horse, just like we would if we're on a bike or walking, to be able to navigate through the bridle tracks and byways on a horse. So really it's using it in exactly the same way if we'd be walking. She just wanted a lightweight compact unit that she could carry when she was on the horse.
How was she carrying that then on the horse? Because she had her hands on the reins. Did she have a backpack tether or something?
She had a little backpack with her, so she was using the backpack tether. But I suppose some of the smaller lightweight units, you do have the option of even just a lanyard around your neck.
Right.
You know, she was carrying a little backpack. you know, I don't know if all horse riders carry a backpack, but that's the easiest way to carry it, to be honest.
Brilliant. What are some of the other activities that you've come across then?
Yeah, so we always, when customers ring up and say, I'm looking for a GPS device, we always say what you're using them for. And as John said, the common thing, walking, hiking, cycling, sea kayakers.
Right.
It's amazing. I get a lot of sea kayakers, which what they want to do is, sometimes they want to navigate on land to get to the bit of shore that they're going to push the kayak out from. But then the important thing is you forget about this. So they go out on the sea kayak and they get the drift out into the sea. What they want to be able to do is get back to the shore where they've left their equipment. So they use the track back function on the GPS devices. So I've had actually quite a good number of people who are using it for sea kayaking.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and again, the waterproof, I suppose salt water, will you wash them off when you get back? Would you get the salt water?
Yeah, I mean, the units, I mean, obviously they're not submersible, they're not waterproof as in, you know, to be used underwater, but they've got a high IP67 rating, so there's no problem getting splashed. What I tend to find is the sea kayakers would have went for the push button unit, because wet screens, sometimes you don't get quite the same quick response. I know it's easy to wipe a screen and use it, but what I find is the sea kayakers tend to go for, would have been the MAP66s push button unit, and of course now probably the 66s. And again, I know a lot of sea kayakers, what they'll do is they'll have these waterproof, like we do aqua packs, they'll just have a larger aqua pack bag that they would put that sort of equipment in case something did happen.
Right,
you know.
okay, they went overboard.
Yeah.
Another activity is skiing, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a lot of customers skiing, and again, it's the, you know, you think it's still navigation at the end of the day. The same as wood walking and hiking, they might be going at a different pace. Again, tend to be carrying it with a backpack tether. They go for a small compact unit. Again, skiers often go for the push button unit like the MAP64s, or again hopefully the 66s, because they're wearing their ski gloves and they want to press buttons. And again, there's so many maps available from Garmin. I find a lot of customers will use, there's open source maps with ski resorts. Garmin actually sell a map, which I think it's top of my head, it's about £20 to download, called the Winter Activity Map, which has all the ski runs on.
Fantastic.
So again, skiers are using that sort of product.
Brilliant. Another key people are using it are the trail riders. We've talked about this in past podcasts. These are trail riders, off-ride trail riders. And I think in the last one of the podcasts we discussed the different mounts and things that those guys are using as well, aren't
Yeah,
we?
so trail riders tend to go for the Garmin Montana, the big large touchscreen, because it's a large screen, robust unit. It works with the gloves on, and the main reason, as we've mentioned in other podcasts, we've got the RAM mount available for the bars on the bike, and actually a connection that allows you to charge the unit while it's on your bike. And I find the trail riders tend to go for the 1 to 50 mapping, because that's what they want to see is boats, byways open to all traffic, and that's marked on the 1 to 50 map, and they don't necessarily need the detail of the 1 to 25. And
the other key thing is surveys, you know, wildlife surveys for work and that kind of thing. So there must be interesting people that you've spoken to in regards to that.
Yeah, I've got so we're talking about recreational activities here, and again, it's just giving you ideas of what you can use the GPS device for. I get a lot of customers who are buying it for work, and they're using it for, I had one the other week where a gentleman worked for a company where they left equipment in rural locations on, you know, could be in the middle of the field, quite small equipment. I didn't get any further into what the equipment was for, but at the end of the day, he's leaving this equipment, and what he wanted to do is mark a grid reference of where the equipment was left, so that when they come back a few months later to pick it up, someone could locate that equipment.
Brilliant.
I had a company that had water meters in farmers' fields, so the water meters out, not on premises, and they'd forgotten where half these water meters were, so they were using the GPS device to survey the water meters, mark where they are in the GPS again, so when they come back to a computer, they can look at that location and record it.
So you used a lot of things there. Big thing, geocaching. So I know if you listen to podcasts for live, we had Pete Mason on from the podcast show, and you've heard us talk about go to Mega and this kind of thing with the big geocaching events. So massive marketplace for them is geocaches. And the main units the geocaches are using, Andy, are?
Tends to be the Oregon 700 series, because it does the live geocaching. So if you haven't plugged it into a computer and downloaded any geocaches, you can use Wi-Fi or a hotspot on your phone and download them. And interestingly, the new GPSMAP66s allows live geocaching as well, so I can imagine that one's going to be very popular. The geocachers doing this, what is basically a good fun electronic treasure hunt.
Yeah, brilliant. So if you're interested in geocaching, go back to episode 4 on our GPS training podcast, and you'll be hearing my interview with Pete Mason if you want to know a little bit more about geocaching. And then finally, mountaineering. So this is something that we just started discussing yesterday about mountaineers. Again, a lot more people are going on expeditions and things looking for GPS units, and not just a GPS unit on their own, Andy.
What we find, we're getting a lot of mountaineers get in touch with us. So they're not just your average walker and hiker doing a day's walk. They're going out for days and days and up in high mountain climbs. And what they seem to be going for, they're wanting that very robust, tough unit because they're away for days and days. So again, they tend to be going for the MAP64s. I think it'll be in the new MAP66s with that high military standard. I can see that's probably going to be a popular one with the mountaineers. Big buttons you can use with your gloves on. What we also find, we're getting a lot of mountaineers are going for the Garmin Inreach products as well. So we do, for Facebook users, I'm holding up the Inreach Mini. So it's because they're going off the beaten track and off the grid, so there's no mobile connection for days and days. They've got that emergency communicator, so they can press an SOS button in emergency, or they can keep in touch with friends and family using the satellites, the military satellite system, rather than mobile. So I think we're seeing more and more Inreaches going to mountaineers. And interestingly, the new MAP66s that's coming out with the push buttons, that'll pair with the Inreach, so you can have the Inreach on your rucksack, and while you're navigating with a 66 up in the mountains, if someone was to send you a message on the Inreach, you'll get that on the screen of the 66s.
It's going to be a great combination for the mountaineers, isn't it? The new 66S and also the Inreach Mini can sort of be able to communicate, and they've got navigation both in those two devices. So I think that's going to be a big marketplace there.
I think the Phoenix watches,
Yeah,
actually, just before, we're not talking about watches an awful lot. I find the mountaineers more and more asking for something on their wrist, so their hands are totally free, and they want to record just like some altitude, height. You can, of course, with the Phoenix 5 watches, we now do the Plus watches, you have got mapping capabilities on them as well. So I have been asked, it's interesting, I'm not saying walkers and hikers wouldn't use them, but mountaineers wanting that sort of totally hands-free, something on the wrist.
And also with the new 5X Plus, that measures the oxygen levels in the bloodstream as well, doesn't it? So again, a lot of the mountaineers will be going for that because that's what that's aimed at, and then you can tether the Inreach Mini with that. I know I've got a 5 on my wrist, and I can tether mine with that. Well, that's our Inreach Mini, so that's good.
So if you're using your GPS for anything else, we should get our customers email us in. Are you going to do that next?
That's exactly what I was going to do.
I'll let you have stole that. Go on, you do that
thunder now. I was just saying, if any of you listen to the GPS Training podcast and you use your GPS units for something completely different that we've not mentioned there, just email us in office@gpstraining.co.uk and we'll mention those on next month's podcast.
Let us know what unit you're using as well.
Yeah, what unit you're using, how you're using it, if you're using it for anything different, and then we can maybe put it on our newsletter that we got every Friday, and we'll mention this. Maybe it could be a regular theme every month in the podcast. Next thing is Andy's top tips. So Andy's top tips. I actually was just putting the running order together this morning for the podcast. It's Friday morning when we record it, and actually it was about 20 past 8, and an email arrived into our inbox by a guy called Andrew Wallington. He kindly wrote to us with his top tip. So this just came in this morning. So great timing, Andrew. I don't know if you had arranged this or whether it was just pure coincidence. Good morning. First of all, thank you for your podcast, site information and videos. We've only been walking and hiking for the past 2 years, and being a mature years, I have a lot to learn. I learned a lot from Andy's top tips and would like to add my own. My route this week was about 25 miles in mid-Wales, which I intended to do over 2 days, but having completed 13 miles and getting to the bus stop for my return an hour early, I decided to complete the whole walk that day. The weather was great and I felt capable of finishing, even though I'd never walked this far in one go. Sunset was due at 18:30, which gave me time to finish in daylight, I thought. I had not taken fatigue into account. A bright, clear day started to cloud over, so reducing light. My sat map was getting low on battery as the route required me to constantly check my position. I did not have a power backup, and I had intended to finish mid-afternoon. I did not have a torch for the same reason. The last half mile was downhill through a thick wood, so there was little or no light in places, even though there was light outside. This was not good for trip hazards. I'm sure that any seasoned walker would have not made these mistakes, but it seems there are more people walking now with who are lots of novices. So my top tips for myself are: never outstretch myself, fatigue sets in quickly. Number 2, always carry a power backup source for navigating device, even on a short walk, just in case of battery failure. And thirdly, carry a torch all year round. Powerful torches do not have to be heavy. Maps are useless in the dark. Having said that, the sense of achievement of walking 25 miles in one go and at the same time completing the 7-way was fantastic. Cheers, Andrew. So it's really quite a nice little story there. I think the key things that we take away is, especially those spare batteries, if you've got a Garmin device, or spare batteries, of course, for the SatMap.
This gentleman's got a SatMap Active 20, and we actually sell an emergency battery pack that lets you slide out the LiPo battery and put 3 AA batteries in. So that's the sort of thing we would carry. We do actually have emergency power banks as well that work with the Goal Zero ones that work with the SatMap Active 20. So
really good story there.
Good
So again, it's
story,
just, the thing is fatigue, isn't it? So moving on, Andy's top tips. So Andy, you can do your SatMap top tip first, please.
Yeah. So with the SatMap units, it's that time of year when weather's turning and weather's not so nice. And a lot of customers ask me about should they carry their unit outside? Is it weatherproof? Now, if we look at the new Active 20 unit, that has an IP68 rating, so it's got a really good weather rating. So there's no reason to not have it carried in your hand, or various other methods to carry it. But a lot of customers say, what if I was to put it in my pocket? So the tip for the SatMap Active 20 is if you were going to put it in a pocket but leave the unit turned on, or this time of year when we might have, you're more likely to have rain or snow coming down, I suppose, as we get nearer to winter, we recommend locking the screen, because if you don't lock the screen and you put a touchscreen unit in your pocket, you can have accidental touches and move things. So on the Active 20, it's so easy. You just press the on-off button once with the unit turned on, and there's a little padlock symbol appears next to the on-off button, and when you press the power button once more, that's the screen locked on whatever screen you locked it on. It still moves, the map still moves with you, and to unlock it, you just press the on-off button again, and you get a message saying, do you want to unlock, and you press the button next to yes to unlock.
Brilliant.
So use the screen lock. But part of my tip is, I would still recommend, I try and carry the unit outside all the time. You've got a clear view of the sky. You don't need to really put it in your pocket. Just remember there is a good range of accessories for carrying it. For the SatMap Active 20, we've got for those of you on Facebook, I'm holding up a quad lock belt clip. So we do the quad lock belt clip. There's a simple lanyard that we keep that you can attach on the back. And there is actually a carry case that the lanyard attaches to. But again, if I was putting it in the carry case, I would lock the screen before I put it in the carry case.
And if we are using the belt clip or other accessories, we need to get this back plate, don't we? Because there's a quad lock accessory.
Yeah, so the quad lock belt clip that we stock, you also buy it with a back plate that goes on the back of your SatMap Active 20 that you can use to lock it in place. Now, I know we talk a lot now because the Active 20 has been the new unit now since last summer, but those of you who are sitting there with an older Active 12, I know it's not a touchscreen unit, but you can still accidentally move the joystick. With your Active 12, you've got exactly the same. You can press the on-off button and you get that little padlock symbol. So if you press the on-off button once more, it's locked.
Brilliant. So that's some good top tips, a number of top tips there for SatMap Active 12 and 20 users. Garmin top tip, Andy?
I'm going along the same theme. It might sound a bit boring, but to be honest, it's a good time to show both of these tips together. The Oregon touchscreen units have exactly the same function of a screen lock. So for the same reason as the SatMap, the time of year we are in now, the Garmin units, the current touchscreen units are IP67, so they can be used outdoors all day. You don't need to put them in a pocket, but if you were going to put them in a pocket, it's actually the same way to do it just about as the SatMap. If you've got an Oregon 700, 600 series, Montana, Etrex Touch, with the unit turned on, power button once, you see a little locked padlock symbol at the bottom of the screen when you press the power button once. You touch that padlock, that's the screen locked. To unlock it, you press the power button once more again, touch the padlock at the bottom to unlock it. So lock the screen if you're going to put it in a pocket, or if there's rain, snow coming down, that might bounce off the screen. But I'm going to do exactly the same for the Garmin. What we recommend for the Garmin, rather than putting it in a pocket, so it's always got a good view of the sky, if you carry in a small backpack or a day sack, the backpack tether, which we've got attached for Facebook users, I'm holding up, attached to the Inreach device here, we've got a backpack tether that'll slide on the back of the Oregon and the Etrex Touch series, and then you can attach it to your backpack. If you've got the bigger Montana, we have a carabiner clip, lanyard carabiner, and we also have other accessories like retractable lanyards, belt clips, so lots of accessories that allow you to carry it without having to put it in your pocket. But remember the screen lock if you do put it in the pocket.
For people who are on Facebook, you see this is our Inreach Mini. We've talked about it, but it actually, Andy's not put this on. It's always got this backpack tether on. All our device that we loan out to our guides at Shepherd's Walks and GPS training, I actually leave a backpack tether on them, and then I give it to my guide. First thing they do is put it onto the rucksack, and I know I'm going to get it back. They're not going to lose
It's the most
it.
popular accessory we sell for the Oregon 700 series and the Etrex Touch series,
so
and so in the GPS Map 6466.
You can just hear it there. It's the Velcro. It just clicks on the Velcro and then slips off if you're just listening to us. So backpack tether. I say the Inreach Mini. That's our Inreach Mini, and just keep the backpack tether at all.
I mean, the reason for those tips is it's this time of year when I get so many calls saying my GPS screen's been mucked up, it's a different language, something's happened, and you find out the customer was worried about the weather and they've put their unit in their pocket to keep it out of the rain and they've moved the screen. So it's just giving you that peace of mind. They are weatherproof, they don't need to be put in the pocket, but if you do, lock the screen.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for your top tips. And if anybody has any top tips they would like us to feature in next month's podcast, please just drop us an email. It's office@gpstraining.co.uk. Next thing is the GPS Training Podcast Competition. In last month's podcast, we had a competition for SatMap Active 20 users. The month before, we had one for Garmin users, and then last month we had one for SatMap users. So the question was, what does SatMap call their map card that includes the Ordnance Survey 1 to 10,000, 1 to 25,000, and 1 to 50,000 map sets on the same card? And the answer is, Andy?
It's the Platinum Bundle.
The Platinum Bundle. So we actually drew this live on Facebook. We actually started recording the podcast and realised we hadn't done the draw. So Andy wrote scrums off and he's come back and we pulled one out. So the winner of the competition.
We've got an Active 20 case we'll be posting out to you is Penny Jarvis. So thank you, Penny.
So thank you very much, Penny. We'll drop you an email in the next 10 minutes and we'll get that in the post to you. And finally, many thanks for listening to the GPS Training Podcast. If there's anything you'd like us to feature in future episodes, please do get in touch. Please do give us a call, especially if you're thinking about buying a new GPS unit. Please do take a look at both our physical GPS training courses and our webinars. Just go to our website, which is gpstraining.co.uk, and click on GPS training courses. Please do tell a friend about the podcast and also about GPS training. And don't forget, you can watch us record the podcast on our Facebook page, which is GPS Training UK, or on our YouTube channel, which is GPS Training. Also, please remember to RST our podcast with a rate our podcast on iTunes, subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you listen to us on, and tell a friend about both GPS Training and the GPS Training Podcast. Please help us spread the word. Many thanks, Andy, for joining me on this month's GPS Training Podcast, and we look forward to welcoming you again at the same time next month.
Thank you.
Cheers.